Hundreds of contracts and hundreds of millions of dollars have been handed out in the NHL's free agency period, but these are the 5 worst contracts handed out in the 2025 offseason so far, starting with the 5th worst contract handed out this entire offseason, when the Flyers signed Christian Dvorak to a 1-year contract worth $5.4 million. Plain and simply, paying $5.4 million to a guy who has a career high of 38 points is absurd to me. This is a guy who was massively overpaid by Montreal last year at $5.4 million, and for him to get a raise rather than a reduction of his salary by at least half is just absurd to me. The only saving grace here for the Flyers is that it is just a single year, so it doesn't hurt the Flyers too much and it helps them get over the salary cap floor. But when you compare the value of this contract to other forwards who got just a 1-year deal, I'm talking about guys like Corey Perry, Lars Eller, Patrick Kane, Anthony Mantha. They're just all plain and simply better players than Christian Dvorak, so if you gave the contract to them, the value would at least be better. In terms of pure value, it might be one of the worst contracts given out, but luckily it's only a single year, which is why it's only the 5th worst contract given out this offseason. Now, the 4th worst contract given out this offseason was one that was widely panned, and it was actually a contract extension. The Columbus Blue Jackets gave Ivan Provorov an 8.5 by 7, which to me is just absurd. Now, Provorov is a decent defenseman. He's a top 4 guy. I get wanting to lock a guy like him up and keeping your defensive core solid, which on a team like Columbus that's looking to take a step forward makes a lot of sense. Problem here is, again, the value proposition. Provorov is not an $8+ million defenseman. He was projected by AFP Analytics to get something closer to about $7 million a year, but it's still been a bit high, but a little bit more tolerable. The big problem here is that it's a 7-year extension. Provorov is already 28 years old. That means his contract will take him into his mid-30s. You're going to see a decline in his play, and a guy who's already not worth the high AAV he's getting right now will be an absolute albatross to your team. He's going to be almost impossible to move in the future. I have a feeling he's going to be bought out in about year 4 or 5 of this deal. Now, the number 3 worst contract given out in this offseason is going to be a controversial one, but I genuinely believe that giving Sam Bennett an 8x8 was a massive mistake by the Florida Panthers. And I know it's wild to say that about a guy who just won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the playoff MVP, but if you look at how this guy's performed, not during the playoffs but the regular season, it is very hard to justify this contract. He has one single 50-point season, which was last year. His career high in goals is 25, and this guy's getting paid almost $3 million more than Joel Eriksson-Ek. And I know Panthers fans are going to tap on the cup and wave the ring in their face and say, look at the Conn Smythe. Paying a guy based on his playoff performance only works if you get deep into the playoffs. If the Panthers bow out in the first or second rounds in the next couple of years, which could happen because the playoffs are chaotic, fans are going to start looking around and wondering, how come we can't add any players? And they're going to point to the guy making $8 million a year, only scoring 35 to 40 points. But Sam Bennett is the reigning Conn Smythe Trophy winner, so his contract isn't as bad as some of the other big overpays that were made. The second biggest one, which I'm still mind blown by, the Boston Bruins giving Tanner Jano $3.4 million a year for 5 years. And he's a fine role player at $1.5 million to $2 million a year. $3.4 million a year for 5 years for a guy who's already 28 is absurd to me. This guy had one 40-point season back in 2021-22, and people are acting like he's not a fringe third liner. Also had a lot of injury concerns. He's bounced around between a lot of teams over the last few years. I don't know what makes Boston think that this is a guy that they have to lock up. My number 1 rule for building teams is don't overpay your bottom 6 guys, and this is a massive overpay. I know people are ragging on the Oilers for overpaying Trent Frederic, and they should, because that contract is an atrocity as well. It just barely missed out on this list, but at least the Frederic contract was somewhat comparable in value to what people were expecting him to get, around $3 million a year. Jano is getting over twice the projected value of his contract, and he is significantly worse than Trent Frederic. And the fact that the Bruins traded away one guy just to sign his replacement to an even worse contract is just peak Cam Neely and Don Sweeney. But all of those contracts don't compare to the absolute worst deal that was handed out this entire free agency, which is the Anaheim Ducks signing forward Mikko Granlund to a 3-year, $7 million a year deal. And look, I get it, the Ducks also have to get to the salary cap floor somehow, and Granlund is not even that bad of a player, but again, just the value proposition itself is ridiculous. He was projected to get about $4 to $5 million, and he's getting 7 from the Ducks. He's topped out at around 60 to 70 points in his career, but what's even more concerning to me is the fact that he's already 33 years old. This contract will go until he is 36, and unlike the Panthers, who overpaid Sam Bennett, you can't at least lean on the fact that Granlund's this clutch playoff performer, or that he's going to lead the Ducks to another Stanley Cup. Anaheim is probably going to be bad next year. Maybe they'll be a little bit better the year after that, but that's when they would like a little bit more salary cap space, not that $7 million being eaten up by a geriatric who's only scoring 10 to 15 goals per year.